Well, you look fantastic. Listen.
I actually do. It was a
yeah.
great adventure. You know, my body will never be the same.
And he jumped in my motorhome and I had a T-shirt on that said, "Don't Hasselhoff." And he said, "I want that shirt."
It opens in theaters June 28th. Please welcome Shaun Penn.
In 2025, a 91-year-old actress is still filming movies about royal scandals. A 75-year-old rocker is touring Australia with 100 shows planned.
Could I have the other two lead singers come out with me and sing my last song?
An 82-year-old speaks 7 languages and runs wildlife foundations in Kenya. But then there's the other side. The Oscar winner who looks older than his 95-year-old father. The TV star found dead just hours after calling friends. The child actress who needed bodyguards at 15 and now lives alone with rescue animals. These aren't just celebrity updates from 2025. They're complete reinventions. New looks, new confessions, new lives. Some by choice, some by time, some by tragedy. The question is, would you even know them if you passed them on the street? David Hasselhoff. David Hasselhoff once had the world at his feet. In the 1980s, he was Michael Knight in Knight Rider, saving the day with a talking car. In the 1990s, he ran along beaches in Baywatch as Mitch Buchanan, watched by nearly 1 billion people across 140 countries. At one point, he earned $100,000 per episode and was also the executive producer. The show made him a fortune, well over $100 million, and earned him a Guinness World Record as the most watched man on television. But in 2025, the image is painfully different. In May, Hasselhoff was seen in a wheelchair at the Los Angeles airport. He was heading into knee surgery, struggling with pain that made it hard for him to walk. Then came the bigger blow. Just 2 months earlier, in March, his ex-wife Pamela Bach died by suicide at 62. She was found in her Hollywood Hills home, the victim of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Her final years were tragic: addiction, heavy drinking, financial struggles, and mental health issues. She had once shared the spotlight with him. Now, she left behind their 2 daughters. Behind the scenes, Hasselhoff's money had long started to disappear. Between 2 divorces, expensive habits, and poor financial decisions, his net worth has dropped from over $100 million to just around $10 million in 2025. He still earns about $1 million a year from royalties, but it's a shadow of what he used to have. Shaun Penn's story isn't about physical pain or lost wealth. It's about what fame, age, and rage can do to someone who never stayed quiet. At 64, Penn is nearly unrecognizable. In April 2025, paparazzi snapped him outside Nobu in Malibu. He looked tired, hunched over, unshaved, with deep eye bags and bruises on his nose. His clothes were stained. His cigarette burned slowly. Fans were shocked. One even said, "My 95-year-old father looks younger than him." But it wasn't just how he looked, it was what he said. In May, on Jim Acosta's podcast, Penn warned that former President Donald Trump might try to destroy the world before he ages out of life. He didn't stop there. He compared Trump to a murderous ex who would rather kill than let go. The comments were raw, dark, and explosive. Just weeks earlier, he had defended Woody Allen in a separate podcast, brushing off long-standing abuse claims as unfair attacks. People didn't know what was more shocking, his words or his indifference. Penn's personal life has been just as unstable. He married Madonna in 1985 and divorced 4 years later. His second marriage to Robin Wright lasted from 1996 to 2010. Then came a short marriage to Layla George from 2020 to 2022. In 2024, he was linked to actress Valeria Nikov, but nothing seems steady in his world. Linda Hamilton. Linda Hamilton was once the toughest woman on screen. Now, at 68, she's part of Netflix's Stranger Things, and no one saw it coming. In June 2023, fans were shocked to learn she had joined the 5th and final season of the hit show. After decades of choosing her roles carefully, Hamilton stepped right back into the spotlight. But even she admitted it's confusing. "I don't know how to be a fangirl and an actress at the same time," she said. "I'm gonna work on that." That kind of honesty only added to the surprise of her return. What makes this twist in her career so strange? is how far she's moved from her roots. For years, Hamilton was Sarah Connor, strong, determined, and unforgettable. She dominated the Terminator in 1984, exploded back onto screens in Terminator 2 in 1991, and returned one more time in Dark Fate in 2019. Behind those roles was brutal preparation. To become Sarah, she trained like a soldier. Her coach even threw tennis balls at her while she practiced shooting blindfolded. The training was so intense, she cried in the bathroom during breaks, then wiped her tears and kept going. That pain turned into raw power on screen. Her effort didn't go unnoticed. She won 2 MTV Movie Awards and took home the Saturn Award for Best Actress in 1991. Now, instead of firing guns, she's stepping into a world of horror and mystery. No more sweaty intensity, no more action stunts, just pure suspense. And nobody knows what kind of character she'll play next. That mystery has fans more intrigued than ever. Renee Zellweger. Renee Zellweger might just have pulled off the most shocking transformation of 2025. When British Vogue revealed their February cover, fans didn't even recognize her. Gone was the soft blonde look. In its place, a sharp pixie cut and a totally different vibe. The photo sparked wild rumors. Was it AI? Heavy editing? Some swore it wasn't even her, but it was. And she embraced every second of the confusion. Zellweger had already made headlines years before for vanishing from Hollywood. Between 2010 and 2016, she disappeared completely. No films, no red carpets, just silence. When she came back, she explained why. "I was sick of the sound of my own voice," she said. Acting had become emotional recycling. "Oh, is this your mad voice? Are you sad again, Renee?" she joked. So she walked away. During those 6 years, she did everything except act. She studied international law, built a house, rescued older dogs, wrote songs. It wasn't rest, it was reinvention, but she didn't return quietly. In Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy, released in 2025, she dove back in with total commitment. In fact, she refused to break character. Zellweger kept Bridget's British accent going all day, every day, even when cameras weren't rolling. She said switching back and forth was too tiring, so she just stayed Bridget. According to director Michael Morris, she didn't show up as Renee at all. From the way she walked to how she sat, she lived inside the character. It was an out-of-body experience, he said, and everyone on set felt it. Faye Dunaway. Faye Dunaway was just 26 when she exploded onto the screen in Bonnie and Clyde in 1967. Her role as Bonnie Parker wasn't just bold, it was unforgettable. The film pulled in 11 Oscar nominations and earned her one of them. Producer Robert Evans said she had a kind of witchery, something dark, electric, and impossible to ignore. In that one performance, she went from unknown to iconic. Then came Network in 1976. Dunaway played a cold, brilliant TV executive who chased ratings with no mercy. It was a role full of fire and steel. She won the Academy Award for Best Actress and called the part one of the most important female roles to come along in years. At that point, she wasn't just famous, she was legendary. But the legend didn't stay golden. In 2019, she was fired from a Broadway show, Tea at 5, after backstage outbursts and lawsuits. Her assistant accused her of cruel behavior, and suddenly the industry stopped calling. She vanished from the public eye for years. Then, in 2024, at the age of 83, she walked the red carpet at Cannes for the first time in 4 years. She looked very different, older, fragile, far from the powerful image many remembered. But what came next was even more revealing. That same year, HBO released a documentary titled Faye. In it, Dunaway broke down in tears as she admitted something she had never said publicly. She has bipolar disorder. She also spoke for the first time about the adoption of her son, Liam. The director said it was the hardest subject for her, something she had kept buried for decades. Her most recent acting role came in 2022, in The Man Who Drew God, starring Kevin Spacey. 2 actors once celebrated are now labeled as casualties of canceled culture, both trying to make a comeback in a world that had moved on. Joan Collins. Joan Collins was nearly 50 when her biggest role came knocking. In 1981, she joined Dynasty as Alexis Carrington. the glamorous, sharp-tongued villain who stole every scene. By 1983, she had won a Golden Globe and became one of the highest-paid women on television. With her bold shoulder pads and scandalous one-liners, Alexis became a symbol of power and drama. Collins dominated the 1980s, but Joan was no overnight success. Her career had started back in the 1950s. She'd already starred in dozens of films before television ever came calling, and she never stopped. In 2015, she was officially made a dame by the British Empire. By 2025, at the age of 91, she was still working, filming a new project about Wallis Simpson, the woman who shook the British monarchy. Even more surprising, Collins had written 16 books and sold over 50 million copies. She'd toured the world with her one-woman show, Behind the Shoulder Pads, starred in American Horror Story Apocalypse in 2018, and led films like The Loss Adjuster in 2020. She did it all while staying sharp, stylish, and unfiltered. Her long career, from black and white starlet to modern screen queen, has lasted over 70 years. And through it all, Joan Collins never faded. She adapted, evolved, and outlasted nearly everyone else. Bette Midler. Bette Midler didn't come from a showbiz family. She was born in Honolulu on December 1, 1945. Her path to fame started in the most unexpected place, singing at a gay bathhouse in New York City in 1970. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave her a loyal following. A young Barry Manilow played piano for her. 2 years later, she released her debut album, The Divine Miss M, which shot into the Billboard Top 10. She won a Grammy for Best New Artist in 1973, and her cover of Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy topped the adult contemporary charts. When Patty Andrews heard the radio intro, she thought it was her own voice. That's how good Bette was. In 1979, she made her film debut in The Rose, a loosely fictional version of Janis Joplin's life. The performance got her an Oscar nomination. Over the next 5 decades, she racked up more than 30 million records sold. She won 3 Grammys, 4 Golden Globes, 3 Emmys, and 2 Tonys. But her most surprising moment came in 2025. At 79, fans barely recognized her. Her red curls were gone. She now wore silver hair tied in a tight bun. Photos from backstage at Death Becomes Her on Broadway left people stunned. Even more surprising, she wasn't performing. She was just visiting her former Hello, Dolly castmate Jennifer Simard. In a 2024 interview, she admitted something even more shocking than her new look. She said she failed at every job she ever tried. Salesgirl, telegram clerk, you name it. She simply wasn't good at anything except performing. Her words were brutally honest. I was terribly lucky that this was the only thing I could do. Zaza Gabbor. Zaza Gabbor's story started an ocean away. Born on February 6, 1917, in Budapest, she wasn't supposed to be famous. She entered the Miss Hungary pageant in 1933 and finished as second runner-up, but she was disqualified 3 years later for lying about her age. When she came to the U.S., she hit the social scene so fast that Merv Griffin once wrote it was like she dropped from the sky. Her Hollywood moment came in 1952 with Moulin Rouge, acting opposite Jose Ferrer, under director John Huston. But the set wasn't a dream. Huston gave her a rough time throughout filming. Her private life was even more chaotic. 9 marriages, 1 daughter, and 1 terrifying confession. In her 1991 memoir, she revealed that her daughter Francesca was conceived after hotel magnate Conrad Hilton forced himself on her. She kept that secret for decades. Hilton even refused to use her real name, calling her Georgia instead. She later said that summed up everything wrong with the marriage. In 2002, at 85, Zaza was in a brutal car crash that sparked false rumors she was in a coma. She survived and lived to 99, passing away in December 2016. Her final husband, Prince Frederick von Anhalt, was born Hans Lichtenberg. He got his title from a strange adoption at age 36. Zaza's daughter accused him of keeping her isolated and called him an evil queen. By the 1960s, Gabbor had become more of a public persona than an actress. She even mocked herself in The Naked Gun, 212 after spending 3 days in jail for slapping a cop. Her legacy was so loud that a historian named it the Zaza Factor. Barbara Bach had a different kind of twist to her story. Born in Queens on August 27, 1946, she came from a Catholic home, though her roots were part Jewish and Irish. At just 19, she attended a Beatles concert at Shea Stadium in 1965 with her sister Marjorie, who wore a Beatles wig. Joe Walsh, future Eagles guitarist, was also in the crowd that day. Decades later, he'd marry Marjorie. And Barbara? She'd marry Ringo Starr. None of them knew their futures were already tied together that night. Barbara changed her name from Goldbach to Bach in 1965 and started modeling for the Eileen Ford Agency. She became a magazine regular, Vogue, Elle, and Gioia. Acting came next. In 1968, she starred in a television version of The Odyssey filmed in Italy. But her biggest role came in 1977 when she played Russian agent Anya Amasova in The Spy Who Loved Me. Afterward, she shocked everyone by calling James Bond a chauvinist pig who uses girls to shield him from bullets. It was brutally honest and risky. She also almost joined Charlie's Angels, but lost the role because casting agents said she was too sophisticated and didn't seem American enough. Britt Eklund. Britt Eklund's life could have been written as a psychological drama. Born October 6, 1942, in Stockholm, she had a glamorous father who ran a clothing store and captained Sweden's curling team. But Britt didn't feel glamorous. As a child, she said she was overweight and called herself brutal-looking. She coped by trying to be funny. At 20, she was discovered drinking coffee in Rome. Just like that, she landed a 7-year contract with 20th Century Fox. What followed nearly ruined her. Her 1964 marriage to actor Peter Sellers turned dark fast. Sellers had her fired from Guns at Batasi by convincing a doctor she was too stressed to work. She was only 21 and healthy. Sellers was so paranoid he believed Hugh Hefner had nude photos of her. In reality, the most revealing picture showed a bare shoulder. Britt, in fact, was extremely modest. She used black tape during love scenes to stay covered. Sellers even accused her of plotting whenever she spoke Swedish to her mother. Despite all of it, she endured. She dated Rod Stewart from 1975 to 1977 and even whispered the French vocals on his hit Tonight's the Night. In 2025, at age 82, she's still on stage, performing in Just Desserts across the UK. Her 1970s Bond girl haircut is now trending again. And when asked how she feels about everything, she said, "At this precise moment, I'm extremely happy to be Britt Eklund." Susie Quattro. Susie Quattro was born in 1950 in Detroit, but she wasn't just another rock singer. She was a bass-slinging powerhouse who broke into a man's world and never looked back. She sold over 55 million records. That's not a typo. And while most Americans remember her as Leather Tuscadero on Happy Days, she was a chart-dominating icon overseas. Her singles like Can the Can and Devil Gate Drive hit #1 in the UK. By 2025, she's not slowing down, far from it. She's 75 years old and on her 40th Australian tour, performing over 100 shows a year. Her Rockin' On tour stretches from January to November, with stops in Perth, Adelaide, Sydney, Brisbane, and Townsville. She's also putting out a poetry book, co-creating music with KT Tunstall, and still hosting her BBC Radio 2 show. To top it off, she's been awarded an honorary doctorate in music for 52 years of rock and roll grit. Critics say her 2025 reviews are the best of her career. Not bad for someone who's been on stage since Nixon was president. Terrence Stamp. Terrence Stamp came into the world on July 22, 1938. And by the 1960s, he was one of the most talked-about actors in Britain. Then came Superman and Superman II, where his performance as General Zod gave cinema one of its most quoted lines, "Kneel before Zod." But his real-life stories are even more bizarre than fiction. He once had a private risotto dinner with Princess Diana at his flat in Piccadilly. He even spelled out HRH in truffle paste. Though he swore it wasn't romantic, he said that was the last thing she needed. In his younger years, he was deeply in love with Jean Shrimpton, the first real supermodel. He called her his twin soul, but he admitted he drove her away by being a lunatic. At 80, he shocked everyone again, openly discussing his sexuality and aging in a brutally honest interview. He said he still had orgasms, but wasn't toujours prêt, always ready, like before, using French just because it sounded better. His brush with death came during a horse riding accident that shattered his pelvis in 6 places and tore his bladder. It changed how he saw life. And even in his 80s, he was still acting, most recently in Last Night in Soho in 2021. From heartthrob to cult legend, his life reads like a script no one could invent. Cybel Shepard. Cybel Shepard lit up the screen in 1971 with The Last Picture Show and never faded from the spotlight. That first role earned her a Golden Globe nomination, and soon after, she was everywhere. But it was moonlighting opposite Bruce Willis that turned her into a TV legend. The show ran from 1985 to 1989, and she took home back-to-back Golden Globes for it. Later, she starred in Cybel, another hit that ran from 1995 to 1998. But when that show was abruptly canceled, she hinted at a dark reason. According to her, she rejected advances from CBS chief Les Moonves, who later resigned in 2018 under a cloud of sexual assault allegations. Born in 1950, Shepard turns 75 in 2025, and fans were stunned when photos of her from late 2024 emerged. She looked frail, skeletal, barely able to walk without help. Those who saw her said it was like watching someone hang on for dear life. A woman once known for her glow and glamour now appears locked in a private battle that few saw coming. Stefanie Powers. Stefanie Powers has always had an air of class about her, even when she was just starting out. At 16, she signed a studio contract with Columbia Pictures, and her name was changed from Stefania Zofia Fedorkiewicz to something more marketable. That became Stefanie Powers. Her big break came as Jennifer Hart in Heart to Heart in 1979. 5 seasons and 8 TV movies later, she was a household name. But her talents weren't limited to just acting. She's done 27 films, spoke 7 languages, and even ran her own production company. Born in 1942, she's now 82 years old, but you wouldn't know it. In June 2024, she appeared at the Patou Spring Summer Show in Paris, turning heads with her graceful, ageless presence. She splits her time between homes in Los Angeles, London, and Kenya, where she runs the William Holden Wildlife Foundation in memory of her late partner. She also serves on the boards of 4 North American zoos. And somehow, through it all, she still looks like someone who could solve crimes in diamonds and heels. She doesn't just age, she evolves. Loretta Swit. Loretta Swit became a household name playing Major Margaret Hot Lips Houlihan on MASH. She wasn't just another face in the cast. She was in 240 out of the show's 251 episodes. Only Alan Alda matched that presence. Week after week, she lit up screens across America for 11 seasons, from 1972 to 1983. Her performance didn't go unnoticed. Between 1974 and 1983, she was nominated for an Emmy 10 years in a row, and she won twice, in 1980 and again in 1982. But fame didn't protect her from loneliness. In 1983, right as MASH was ending, she married actor Dennis Houlihan, a man she met on set. For a while, it seemed like things might settle into something lasting. But by 1995, they were divorced. She never remarried, she never had children. As the roles dried up, Loretta found a new passion: saving animals. She started painting watercolors and used her art to raise money. Her charity, the Swit Heart Animal Alliance, became her mission. She poured everything into it. Even in her final hours, Loretta seemed full of life. On May 29, 2025, she called her publicist at 11 p.m. Nothing seemed wrong. A few hours later, at 4 a.m., her doorman saw her drop off some mail. She looked normal, but by 10 a.m., just 6 hours later, her housekeeper found her dead in her New York City apartment. She was 87, no warning, no goodbye, just silence after a lifetime of noise. Linda Blair. Linda Blair's story started with screams. Born on January 22, 1959, in St. Louis, Missouri, she was only 14 when she became the face of evil in The Exorcist. Her role as Regan McNeil in the 1973 horror classic turned her into a global sensation. The film made history. It was the first horror movie ever nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. It won for Best Adapted Screenplay. But while the film was celebrated, Linda's life was falling apart. Behind the scenes, director William Friedkin pushed her hard. Psychological testing, endless makeup trials. The role demanded more than acting. It demanded her sanity. And when the film hit theaters, some people didn't see her as a child actress. They thought she was truly possessed. Religious fanatics sent her death threats. Warner Brothers had to hire bodyguards to protect her for 6 months. Even walking down the street became dangerous. She was just 15 and already needed security. The stress pushed her over the edge. By 1977, her life had crashed. A public drug bust, alcohol addiction. Her downfall was brutal and fast, like watching a slow-motion car wreck. Strangely, one of her TV movies mirrored her real life almost exactly. Art and reality blurred, and neither was kind, but she didn't stay broken. Linda fought her way back. In 2004, she created the Linda Blair World Heart Foundation. It wasn't just a name, it was her new life. She moved to a 2-acre rescue sanctuary in California. That's where she lives full-time now, surrounded by the animals she saves. At 66, she isn't finished. In January 2025, she announced plans for a memoir. She even returned to her roots, appearing again as Regan in The Exorcist. Believer in 2023. Barbara Feldon. Barbara Feldon looked like she had it all. She was sharp, stylish, and always one step ahead as Agent 99 in the spy comedy Get Smart, which aired from 1965 to 1970. But while millions watched her outwit villains with charm and grace, her real life was far messier and far more painful than anyone knew. She was born Barbara Ann Hall on March 12, 1933, in Butler, Pennsylvania. She studied drama at Carnegie Mellon and won the grand prize on the $64,000 question in 1957 for her deep knowledge of Shakespeare. That money should have changed her life. Instead, it disappeared. Just 1 year after her big win, she married Lucien Verdoux Feldon. To the world, he looked successful and charming. But behind closed doors, he was a gambler, a liar, and addicted to drugs. Barbara later called him a sociopath. She had trusted him completely, even letting him manage her money. But the truth hit hard. He had gambled it all away. She was left broke and betrayed. As if that wasn't enough, her time on Get Smart brought its own set of humiliations. Barbara was taller than her co-star Don Adams, so she had to bend her knees constantly during scenes. It left her in pain every day. And despite being the female lead, her paycheck was laughable. Less than what she could have earned in a single day doing a commercial. Worst of all, Don Adams barely spoke to her off-camera for the entire 5 years they worked together. She said he was cold and distant, and the silence was crushing. While the world saw Agent 99 as a confident, competent woman, Barbara was being pushed around behind the scenes. In fact, producers nearly fired her before the show even aired. All because she had appeared in a deodorant commercial, and the sponsor for Get Smart sold a competing product. The irony was cruel. The woman playing the smart, capable heroine was being treated as disposable. Decades later, Barbara has found peace. Now 92, she lives a quiet, independent life on the East Coast. She wakes up late, meditates, reads, watches Korean dramas, and has dinner with friends. She's written 2 books, Living Alone and Loving It in 2003, and Getting Smarter more recently, which dives into the painful truths she kept hidden for years. Her last acting role was in 2006, and she's made it clear she's done with performing.